Nahaganasinga, Zanabechu, Nabimiya Dachina. Welcome everyone to Rising Warriors. Rachael Kulei. I'm Nabimiya Dachina, woman who travels with the stars, and I'm enrolled with Northwest Band of Shoshone Nation, and come from Washakie, Utah area. And today we have my brother on here, Wayne Snellgrove. I'm excited to have him. He's an author and has done many, many things. What is it? A U.S. Champion, national championship. He was in for swimming, and just he's done a lot of stuff. And I've been watching him for a while, and he's been doing some morning meditation prayers, native prayers, every morning. So stay tuned for that, and we'll put that information in there for you. And he can talk a little bit about that. But he's out here, really being that leader, sharing his voice and his spirit and the teachings of his ancestors. And so I'm excited to have him on here today. And welcome you, brother. And go ahead and tell us about yourself and where you come from.
Yes, well, thank you for thank you again for having me. Again, very honored to be of service to that greatness out there, and obviously to the audience out there. That all those sacred circles out there. I am in the service of the people now, and such a good place to be. Such a good, beautiful place to be. My name is Wayne. My colonial name is Wayne William Snellgrove. My spirit name is Ka-née Pa Wit Makwa. Standing Bear. I come from the Fishing Lake First Nation, Saskatchewan, Canada, Treaty 4 territory. We say Treaty 4 because that tells the people where we're from also. So we want to be mindful of that, and just kind of remembrance to our ancestors too. We are Nakaway people. Megwitz again for having me, and today is a beautiful day to celebrate life. I come to you in a good way, and I'm going to tell a little bit about my story today. And I'm kind of out there a little bit, so. Sometimes people just don't know who Wayne Snellgrove is. So
we're gonna tell your story. I want to hear all about it.
Yeah.
This man has an amazing story, you guys. So
So basically, very, it started the day of my birth, April 9th, 1971. Born on Fishing Lake First Nation in Saskatchewan. And that was the day the government took me from my mom. She actually never even saw me until 32 years later. I was taken 800 miles away to Ontario, and then just placed in whatever that was, like an orphanage. And but I gotta include my mom in here too. She tried to. She went into a diabetic coma while she was giving birth to me, and so she came to, recovered, and of course she went back to the hospital to bring me home. And then the doctors and the administration said, he's not ready to go home yet, blah, blah. And then they made her tried to make her sign a paper to sign away her parental rights, and she refused. So, what a horrific, story, saga, that is just on, that end, and, it's kind of important to mention that too, because, there's a physical umbilical between mom and children, and it's just there. And even though that was taken away, there's still a beautiful connection there. And then even though it's filled with pain early in the beginning, because I can remember, like my first memories of life were just like really just scary, just like, this is not right, this is not normal, and this is not natural. This, it just wasn't right. So and it took me a long time to figure that out. For a long time, I said, well, I mean, I was really full of fear, and it wasn't really that I really had to dig deeper, that I really, it wasn't fear, I mean, I just sit with, in ceremony as in my 40s to really figure out what was happening was really terror. It was absolute terror. That's what the government, and this is all designed by the Canadian government to destroy, manifest destiny, to destroy, the red man and the red nation, and that's what that's what that looked like. I said, well, hey, we got a problem. People, they were the First Nations, so let's get rid of them. So we're going to take away their children. We're going to boarding schools and all that. So they did everything they could to, destroy us. And, and then they nearly destroyed me, and, I can remember going around from, scary place to scary place, I can't remember, how many places. I was just talking with a friend this morning, actually, this memory came up, like 2 years ago or something like that. And, they called me, your name was the bed that you were assigned to. And so I just remember, number 11. It was just like a flash right there. Not knowing, I can remember not knowing what that was, and obviously the number of my bed was like 11. Like that. And so it was really, anything the government could do to really dehumanize you, that's what they did, so again, growing up, no family, no this, no culture, my culture was of a cage, that's what I was, and I can remember being in foster care. I think I aged up to like foster care or something like that. And then I can remember being, this is really weird. And so I just remember these two white people. And it was, male and a female. And they came in one day and they kind of looked at me and they brought me in. I'm like, I don't know. Okay, I knew something was happening. I didn't know what it was, and then apparently they were going to adopt me. But that's not, that's not the way. That's not the way I saw it. It was just life experience told me that this was just another way. This was just, another thing that I had to survive. Every moment was a moment that I needed to survive, and just one of those things. My earliest, and I can remember, beatings. I can remember all of that, and I can specifically remember the very first whisper that I got from the spirits, and it said, "The quiet ones survive." The quiet ones survive. So above all else, to survive. Maybe it was my ancestors, but I definitely remember that whisper. So no tears, no emotion, no nothing, no yelling, no screaming, no fighting. Just one of those things that the quiet ones, survive. And so that really instilled in me, lessons of survival. Back then, and so here I am. I'm like in this new place. Apparently I was adopted. I didn't know what that was. They said they were my family. I never had one though, so I had no idea of what. And there was a mom there and there was a dad. And again, I was just talking to someone this morning about this. I do not remember going hungry. But I remember at night going downstairs and kind of opening it. Maybe it's the bear in me. I don't know. The bear there kind of peeking in the. Oh, goodness. And I would close it real quick. I look up at me like, I remember getting, it's probably the bear in me. Could be something else. I don't know.
That sounds like a bear. My bear does that.
You know, and you know, what's funny is I knew where the chocolate was, so you know, here I am, diabetic in the makings.
Really good chocolate.
So I knew where the chocolate was up there. I knew where they hid it, you know. So you know, that's what that looks like. But you know, it's one of those things. Is you know, you know, I can remember going back to. It was really freaking strange, man, because I just you know clumped together with all these kids, and then all of a sudden I was adopted. I didn't know what that was, but they said go pick your own room.
What now?
What does that mean? I have no idea. Pick your own room. What does that mean? What do you mean pick your own room? Well, you know, they have a new language which I didn't even understand. So, you know, what was really scary was you know I had my own room for the first time. It was really quiet. I just remember sitting there just really scared. You know, and you know I see things, and you know that's a gift from the spirits. But back then, no ancestor or elder told me that there was like gifts there or anything like that. So it's really just kind of like shadows on top of shadows, faces, and you know like and all that. So it was really. So you know what it was like, you know, growing up. It was like you know, again, that constant state of absolute terror. You know, I like I would have intermittent terror spells in the middle of my day, kind of thing, and I would go up, and I can remember having like a little go bag, you know, and obviously changed over the years, you know. You know, when I was 4 or 5, and it was filled with like little green army men, you know, like like a windbreaker because it got cold. You know, a bag of M&Ms, which soon became an empty bag of M&Ms. But you know, but you know, but I would check it and like recheck it like daily because one thing, you know, when the agents show up, you have 30 seconds, man. You either run or you have 30 seconds to grab your stuff. They're not going to wait around 2 hours for you to collect your stuff and just be like, you know, they're just going to come and grab you. And you know, and so I would constantly like recheck and kind of recheck. And, you know, I remember looking out the window just in pure fear, just kind of getting a little comfortable, you know, with these people that I was with. You know, they seemed to be nice, you know, but I was, you know, and then, you know, and then I would go up and just like check my bag again, and it was, you know, had like when Star Wars came out, had the Star Wars figures in there, and had the Hot Wheels and everything I needed to, you know, survive out there, you know, like a 7-year-old kind of thing.
Your toys.
Yeah, you know, toys, you know, like
you got your toys.
Yeah, so you know, like I wanted to be healthy too. So remember the chewable vitamins?
Yeah.
When you were a kid, had chewable.
Yeah, your chewable vitamins.
Yeah, had the chewable vitamins in there. Fred Flintstone. Yeah.
The candy.
Yeah, they were candy. So yeah, well, I'm gonna be healthy when I'm out there. You know. You know. So you know, that's what you know, and that's kind of how I grew up, and you know, and that was the inside the home. And the outside the home, you know, like you know, this is the middle 70s here, so there was really no interracial adoptions. Indians just weren't cool back then. We're a little bit cooler now, you know,
right.
But, you know, but a little bit, you know, and
just a little bit.
But you know, back then we were considered dirty. You know, let me tell you a story about you know school. I was in 5th grade. Remember social studies class? We opened up the book, and it was How the West Was Won. This is public school here, you know, and how the Cowboys killed the savages, you know, kind of. How the West was won. I can remember that, and you know, I grew up in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, man. It's a bit of white middle suburbia. It wasn't, you know, and you have to go to Camden or Philly to you know see anything dark, kind of thing. So, like everybody in that class looked at me and said, "You are less than." So now, not only did I think I was less than, now the school system was telling everybody that I was, you know.
Mhm.
So, how we sink in our seats, I
Yeah.
couldn't sink in my seat low enough, man.
Mhm.
Growing up, I have a cleft palate, there's a shameful of that. This is the age where I started to recognize, different colors, and I realized that I wasn't white, and I knew that was a big, big problem. That, being white and non-white in a white society is a big,
Mhm.
big problem, so I can remember going back home just crying and just want to cut my hair off and just kind of scrub me white.
The dark out.
Just, scrub. There's just not enough soap, it's just not enough soap, man, and, there was a lot of, there's a lot of violence back then too. So it was really, and I was really never one to back down because I was always a bigger kid, bigger, bigger, taller, faster,
Mhm.
kind of thing. Well, there was a gift, and it served me very well later on. But I was never one to really back down. So there's a lot, especially after the fifth grade thing, there was a lot of skirmishes on you know, on the playground. And back then, and like you mix it up with 3 or 4 kids, you just tell you to go back to class. Like
Mhm.
there's no lawyers involved. There's no. You might go to the principal, but sitting there for 5 minutes or just send you back to the thing.
Yeah.
But we're feeling, no DCF, child services, no nothing. No parents called in. No, no, no. Nobody's going anywhere. So
Right.
and really that's just the way it was. So it really just said, so like I didn't really want to be a tough guy, man. I was just really, again, full of fear, full of terror, absolute freaking terror, every day, just going to, kids would make fun of my lip. I spoke with a lisp. I spoke with, I couldn't say W's, I couldn't say TH's or S's. So it was like Wayne, I couldn't say Wayne. I couldn't even say my name, So, and people would just roll their eyes and just say it, kid, they would say that, and I'd be, ooh, and I'd be, all right. So then I was later dubbed, special needs, special education, stuff like that. Just like all these things, they just, school was a mess, man. School was a mess, The only thing, school was really good to, because I honed my skills to really defend myself. It was really kind of like the only way. But I can remember, and kind of spiritual side. I can remember going, I can remember, looking outside my window at night and just praying for my mom to come pick me up. Praying for my mom, those feelings of, rejection, because I knew why she rejected me, because it was my lip. I wasn't perfect, wasn't perfect. I spoke with a lisp, but, I was a fighter. I was labeled stupid, like all these things. And, as a kid, we take that on, we take on that persona, we blame ourselves,
Mhm.
and so I blame myself, for not being good enough, for not being white enough, for having, dark hair, for being born an Indian, for being, all these reasons. My mom didn't want to love me, didn't have me, and really rejected me. There's stuff piling on here,
Right.
and I would go home, and then I would go home and, not know if I was going to be there at the end of the day. It wasn't like, so, at 7 years old, I decided that, I think I'd had enough, I had enough, you know and that's my first suicide attempt. I'm a survivor of like 15 of them,
Wow.
so throughout the course of childhood, a lot of them in childhood before I even had a drug, and then you throw drugs in there. So, of course, that's kind of thing. That's what that happens. Comes with
Mhm.
the territory. You start drinking the drug, and then suicide's a real option at that
Mhm.
point.
Mhm.
And then and I knew there was a creator and a God out there, because I could look outside the window here and I saw it. But I was disconnected to it, man. It was just kind of like, God, I just want to be so part of something beautiful. And I knew I wasn't, and God wasn't going to make me beautiful. I was a guy that God forgot about. God doesn't love me. God wouldn't do this to me. God wouldn't do the abuse, this, that, the nightmares, the bedwetting, just like all this like stuff, and then like, whatever that coach did to me, whatever that was, it's kind of like, okay. One night I just had tears in my eyes. I said, you know what? I've had enough, man. And I can remember just wrapping the it was Scotch tape. It was Scotch tape. Like I would breathe, it would like break, like wrap my head again, but I used like 4 rolls of my Scotch tape. But funny now, haha, but not so funny then. It was really just kind of like, and I just like I just wanted to die. I wanted to die, I wanted to die, So kind of fast forward. So that's kind of how I grew up, kind of fast forward, I started swim career, moved to Florida, a couple of national champions. We're going to move through that. But the real beautiful part of the story is, and sometimes stories begin with tragedy. So my mother, my adopted mother, who I finally realized that was my mother, let me step back a second. So at 12 years old, I'm sitting crying on my bed and not knowing why, I would just cry for weeks, and not know why, I'm broken, and so my mom came in and just the first thing out of my mouth, I don't know what said it. I don't know how I said it. It was like, will you ever give me away? Will you ever give me back to that? And then she started crying and I started crying. I'm like, no, and that was the first time at 12 years old that I ever even had a glimpse of what a family really kind of felt like, because I was an outsider, everything that they'd done to me, everything that they had taken away from me, everything life had offered me was hard, hard. And so that was like the first glimmer that hey, I'm actually belonging to something, and I didn't quite believe it in the beginning. I didn't quite believe it, I said, good enough for now. But anyway, I tell that story to tell this is, and after that we had a real close connection. As close as female. I just and she passed away. She passed away, and one of those things that she passed away from colon cancer back in 97. She got diagnosed in 92. Beat it, came back, and it's clean for like 5 years, and it came back, and it took her 6 months anyway. So I'm sitting there. I was in Florida working the beach. I was like the Baywatch guy down there. And so it was really, I went back up to Massachusetts, and I was sitting there. And this is probably one of the most pivotal days of my life. I'm sitting there looking in the casket right there, looking down at her, looking at this woman I barely even knew, thinking like, oh, what loss, shame, remorse, and blaming God again. I'm thinking, God this, God that. I'm thinking suicide. I'm thinking about drinking. I think I shoot something in my arm. I'm thinking about all these things, sitting with her and just trying to like, God, you're taking everything from me. Everything you could take from me, you are taking from me. And then I realized I didn't lose one mother. I lost 2. And I said, you know what? I've had enough, And then instead of committing suicide, I decided to find life instead. And I decided to find my mom's life. My mom, And so my dad is a research chemist. So thank God for that, because he takes meticulous notes. So he had a beautiful file. I knew where the file was. So I would find the file. And find the file, break it open, take what I needed, and this is this is before like the internet kind of thing. So
Yep.
it's all done by what the big desktops, the dial-ups, all that stuff. Yeah, it was before that. So it took me anyway. It took me. Short story is, it took me 6 years to locate my mom. And I can remember I was actually on the internet. I haven't told this story in a long time. I was on the internet, and my obsession was looking at these adoption reunion sites, and like I was just like obsessed. So every night, I was married at the time. I stayed up to 3 a.m. Going over these horrible adoption reunion stories, but it was like a train wreck. But I had to look at them anyway. And then I came across what a Canadian site. I'm like,
Huh.
And then it said Indigenous Canadian Adoption Units. I'm like, huh, how could that be? What? And then so I clicked on the site, and they started talking about this thing called the 60 Scoop, and I'm like, huh, what is this? And then it said, stolen from mom, stolen from society's culture, stolen from all that. And I told my story in the email. I emailed her on that site that night, like 3:30 in the morning. Emailed her, Ann Patterson, I'll never forget her. Emailed her that night. She emailed me 5 minutes later and said, let's talk tomorrow. And I said, oh my God. And so she said, this sounds exactly like, a 60 Scoop situation. And so I sent her all the information, that I had. And what's interesting about this story is that I sat on, my mom's name is Nora. And so I had 3 Noras and 3 phone numbers. And I sat on that for a year because I couldn't call up and be rejected all over again. I would put a bullet in my head, because this is like, it went from maybe not so, it could be a product of rape or incest or something. You read all these horror stories on the res, kind of thing, and it happens, and so, I just wasn't in that space where I said, well, you're a product of rape, and, your uncle, and we want no part of you, kind of thing. And then I would just like, I really would have no problem. I did no problem committing suicide, kind of thing, done it before, kind of thing. And, so anyway, we spoke the next day. I gave her the 3 numbers, and I said, with one addendum, if she rejects me, just keep looking. That'll be my thing, to just kind of keep that real gentle, and just say, because I just, at this point in my life, I'm 32 years old. I can't be rejected all over again. I would literally kill myself. I really would, And so anyway, she said she would call in the next 48. I'm sitting out in the front yard. The next day, I could hear the phone ringing. Remember house phones? Remember we had house phones? Yeah. We had house phones, And I remember the cord. The 50-yard cord, man. The 50-yard cord. So, so I'm out mowing the lawn. I hear the
push.
The push. I'm pushing. Yeah, I'm Hollywood, And I knew it was right away. And I freaking stopped to think. I freaking run in and think, my wife's looking like this on the phone. I said, yeah, some woman from Canada is calling you. And I grab it and I run in the other room. And then I close the door, shut the curtains, lie in the bed and just like brace myself, kind of like. And she said, I just spoke to the most wonderful, beautiful woman I've ever spoken to. And then it was like, you want to talk about Niagara Falls, man. It was just like, kind of like, she celebrated my birthday every year, April 9th, 1971. She looked for me every year. She went out there physically looking for me. When I was 7 years old, 6 years old, praying outside to that moon for that love and protection, she was always there. She was always there, And now I get to hear her, and now I get to see her. And so, Ann Patterson was really beautiful and really nice. She said, like, write a letter first. I'm like, whatever. I'm gonna go up and see her, man. 32 years. So hop on a plane. She sent me a picture and postcard and everything. So hop on a plane, and this is Regina. So it's just kind of where Regina is. It's just like in the middle of nowhere. It's like a really small city. It's just like, So you actually land on you land on a runway. You disperse on. Back then, you disperse on the runway, and so I can remember this, walking down. This is really weird, It's like, what's really super weird about it was like 9/11 at that time. It was past,
Oh, okay.
the guns and everything, and
Security.
security was everywhere in like Hollywood, Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood International, and they got the dogs, guys with guns and masks on, and I'm like, that's really, get up to, get up to freaking Regina. The guy's like, just grab your baggage from the back. I'm thinking here, like, so I'm like, I need the plane throwing like baggage down. I'm like, this is like the weirdest freaking. It was like, so anyway, so anyway, I grabbed my bag, right, and and there's a little walkway here, and then it goes up, kind of up like that. It's a little, walking up, and there's this group of Indians sitting on the top, and I can see the little Indian heads and everything. It was just like they were getting, as the closer I got, the closer they got to, and in the middle of that was my mom, and I recognized her, and I started this story out with that umbilical story, and this is why. And when she looked at me and I looked at her, there was in that instant, that instant, beautiful, loving, connection that, and I can just remember crying. I remember holding her and, just like surrounding, first time I felt held like ever, 32 years old. Like no one's ever loved me. No one's ever held me before, No one, and I really wish I could, I really wish I wrote down what I said to her the first time, because it'd be really, but I have no idea. Like, it's kind of like, how you doing, Mom? It really doesn't cut it, kind of thing. But I think that's what I said. It was really those really.
Like you saw her yesterday.
Yeah, what's going on, Mom? And so. So anyway, that was really a beautiful journey of, then we connected, and then, I never felt, one of the things the government tries to do is make us ashamed of ourselves, ashamed of our skin and our culture. And, that's the genocide right there. Shame is a genocide, a specific spirit, and then when I made that connection with her, everything, I was good with being an Indian, I wasn't ashamed of I wasn't ashamed of myself, like I wasn't ashamed of my lip anymore, and I was ashamed of my hair anymore, you just, I felt like these waves of like beauty and power, and I didn't really understand that at the beginning, even though I met grandfather Tony 5 years earlier than that, and I was going to ceremonies. I was walking the Redroad, but I was still insane though. Back then, he just said, just come to ceremony, man. That's the best you can do right now. Okay, I didn't do fire, like I had to be there. He stood next to me when I make those first offerings, kind of thing. Really doing. He taught me how to do things in a good way. And so. So, I met my mom. I really just started the spiritual journey and went back to my ancestral lands, and just sitting on my band office, just being like, oh my God, this is really beautiful. I actually belong to a really beautiful, powerful people, and tribe. And I can remember talking to my, relatives, and, them really having that deep love and, respect for me. I never really had any before, because really the white culture, what did they give you, man? They didn't show me a whole lot, man. But when I went home, I was embraced, and I really felt that love really for the first time, and there was a lot of healing, going on too, and that healing looks like a lot of things, it really, really does. I didn't get sober right away. It was, still struggling. I did 6 months or 8 months, and then do my thing, and then, whatever that was, and then, learn, we say in Soda Wonka Pick is learn how to sit in a sacred way, and I'm still learning to do that, even though I've been doing this about 30 years, I still know a little bit, just a little bit, but kind of getting back to, what the Canadian government did to me. I'm going to talk a little bit about what the ancestors did for me, type thing. Talk a little bit about this before, before we went on about, we talk a lot about historical trauma and stuff like that. We really, really do. And that's good, telling our stories, very good, very powerful, understand what we went through. We're survivors and all that. And that's a good segue into historical courage, absolute historical courage, because, we have to remember that, in the States here, we had our ceremony rights restored. I think it was back in 78 or 79, in my lifetime, we had them restored here. So, but by the time of my birth, they were still hunting down. I remember talking to my father, and in Saskatchewan, he would just go deeper into the bush, do ceremonies and everything. Just go deeper, and couldn't follow. Nothing. Yeah, you have to hide and do ceremonies like that. And what courage it took for those elders to hold on to the ways when we were being hunted, literally hunted like dogs, for holding ceremonies, and just surviving, even through the residential schools, through everything, through massacres, hundreds if not thousands of massacres. The one thing that I'm really appreciative toward now is that historical courage, the courage for every breath of life. There's a life in every breath. And I have good days and bad days, but the good days are really when I remember that historical courage, and what my ancestors and my mom and my dad and their grandfathers and their grandmothers went through, about just surviving on a day-to-day basis, because life was in the balance back then. It really, really was. They were hunting us, man. They put us on reservations, and they hunted us and told us to cut our hair and all this stuff. And it just, it was ugly. It was ugly. So, so I really take the time to really thank, part of my growth for the future is thanking our ancestors in a really, really good and beautiful way. Thanking like, it may not look really pretty, you know but they survived. We are survivors of those that survived now, and as Indigenous, we don't really talk about that a whole lot. There's all this stuff going on, trauma, generation trauma, and that, but let's just, Grandfather Tony talks about it all the time. Just begin with that gentleness and thank with, in the morning I just say Megwith, thank you. Just what, man, that's the only prayer I say all day. That's good enough, man. Some days, just thank you. Thank you to that higher beings, those ancestors that I understand now that the ancestors have been with me the whole time. They carried me. They gave me, moccasins to walk in when I couldn't walk myself. They carried me when I couldn't, carry myself. They held me when I couldn't held myself. They couldn't, they spoke to me in a language of such beauty and grace under all this stuff, all these things that, we go through, so. So just really beautiful, and just really just, and now, the victory, we're talking victory here, every day that we Indigenous live, it's a victory, every time I smile, every time I tell my story, every tear that I shed, that's a victory right there. That's a victory against the historical trauma, because they tried to destroy us. They just tried to destroy my dad. The woundings of our ancestors. I get to deal with that in a beautiful, beautiful way today. So every time I speak my language, I win. Every time I share love, I win. Every time, every time I let my hair grow long, I win. Every time I wear my historical clothes, I win. So So, every time that we get to do that, we win. We are on, if you're Indigenous out there and you're here, you're a survivor, you won. You're on the winning team. You're with me on the winning team type thing.
Yes. I love
Yeah.
it.
A lot of times, let's just start there, man. Let's just, we are survivors of the survivors. And now, to kind of like, spiritually bitch slap, the Canadian government.
Yeah.
I'm going to share my ways, and I'm going to share my love, and I'm going to share my teaching from the ancestors, because that's what the Canadian government does not want me to do. They want me dead. They wanted me dead when I was 7. They'd be totally happy with me dead right now. Every person in the Canadian government, like, we're hoping that you die, because we don't have to deal with you or your people anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, every time, every time, thank God for, daily medicine, thank God for the spirits, thank God for the ancestors, thank God for the language, thank God, I get to do all these, absolutely beautiful things in the morning. It's an opportunity to speak for that I call it great kindness, that's there, and be that conduit of the great spirit. And, the other thing, the other reason why I do it, and not only to, slap the Canadian government, it is to help the next 7 generations, so they don't have to go through what I went through. That's why it's so important that I share the ways with all nations and all roads. So we have a common understanding of what the spirit is, a common connection. So my sons don't have to go through this. My daughters don't have to go through this. So, it's really more about playing it forward, and making sure that, there's a lot of hope, because I want my legacy to be of not of, a dope fiend, crackhead, alcoholic, incarcerated, more times I can remember type thing, but I want it to be of the legacy of love, and that can look like a lot of things. And, physical, legacy, again, um, uh, I just talk about my swimming for a second, and then I know. Did you give me the moose ears yet? You didn't give me the
Nope,
moose.
not yet.
Okay, so
8 minutes. No.
stand by for the moose ears, everyone. We got a secret signal for the moose ears. So, one of those beautiful things that I get to talk about quite a bit, probably not enough, is growing up, Indigenous. I was a really good athlete. I really, really was. I probably could have gone, been successful in a lot of different avenues. But I chose swimming, one, because I'm not a team player, man. Okay, I'm not a team player. All right, so swimming's team sport, but it's not a real team sport. No one's standing on the block net, with you. It's kind of like so. So I became a really successful swimmer, 2-time U.S. swimming national champion, U.S. national team member. Really honored to do that. And I say this in the spirit of, if there's any young athletes out there, you can. That's it right there. You can. You can. I love you. Any young athletes out there, Indigenous athletes, you're awesome. You're powerful. You're beautiful, and you have something to offer this world. You have something to offer your power. So I became what I was looking for. As that little 7-year-old looking for any other thing. Jim Thorpe is great, but he's come on, he's 1917 or something. Come on, give me something,
Yeah.
something right here, right now. It's kind of like, I mean, Jim, no hard feelings, brother. I love you. Love you, brother, right here. But, but yeah. But give me something, give me something right here. Give us something that our culture, society can, really celebrate. So as a youngster, I never found that. So, I guess I kind of became that. So, in the spirit of, you can. That's the only reason why I, mentioned that too. Talking about legacy, and let's finish up with that. You say, what is our legacy going to be? I spoke about a couple meditations about like, what is our legacy going to be? One, and our legacy, like today's legacy. No, it's kind of like, that there's historical legacy too. And so, what the generations before gave us, and now what are we going to give the next 7 generations? Hey, so my prayer every morning is that's part of it. It has to be in alignment with what's good for those next 7 generations. It's absolutely must. Like if I were to go back to old habits, old ways, criminal ways, drug habit ways, my legacy would that's what that would look like. And I couldn't help the next 7 generations down the line. But, I really just want to embrace them, to hold them, to know, that we were thinking of them. There's so many elders that were so lost during, I call it the spiritual inquisition, both sides of the border, that slaughtered us, left and right. But let's remember the ones that survived, survivors of the survivors. Now we have to rise up. Now we have to really step it up as far as really helping out those next 7 generations. And what's really beautiful about this is there's the next 7 generations of all colors. Of all beauty, all nationalities, all colors, doesn't matter what language. We're all indigenous from somewhere. We have to get ready for that conversation about we are people of Earth type thing. That's the next plateau that we really have to start looking at. The next 7 generations, they're going to have to start looking at that. Like people of Earth. Type thing. We talk about that later, but it's really what are we offering? What are we giving? Being sober today is a good thing, but really just and that's good, and but what are we really offering? Healing, that growth, that place, that forgiveness. Can I do what I want to do now with hate in my heart? I cannot do that now. So, everything now, those people, those what I call it, CSA agents, they're all forgiven. Canadian government's forgiven. I still got my eye on you, but it's kind of like, I got one eye on you, but kind of looking back at you, kind of, going to slaughter us. They still slaughter us. Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and not good to a lot of nations. So they slaughter us. So so we still have to be mindful of where we are. Like our bodies and stuff like that. So it's just really, but it really goes into a place of absolute forgiveness. Like that's another thing. Absolute forgiveness. Forgiving the unforgivable. I can remember my Uncle Frank had to turn out to be my other dad. They assigned me a new dad when my Robert, my biological dad, passed away, and they assigned me a new father. And I thought that was really beautiful. It was Frank, and he always talked about forgiving the unforgivable. Loving, loving, the unlovable type thing. And that can be part of our legacy too, is to be that be that place of grace and mercy for those that have done ill on us. Even the face of terror, which a lot of indigenous communities I feel today. We still have to stand in a good way, in a humble way, in a sacred way, and that's at the end of the day, we can feel a lot of things, but the hope is that we find that place of love and forgiveness. At the end of the day. And, I get it. This is a process. And, it takes a lot of ceremony to, find that place, find that deep place within, one of my prayers is to help out, the sacred feminine, because it's really, this world's going to change. It's going to change in the voices of the grandmothers first, you know. So that's where, and I know that, I feel that, man. I'm more than happy to step back and let those grandmothers,
More
grandmothers.
pressure on us women. No.
Well, you have a grace and beauty that we just don't have. You're life givers, and we're just not part of that. We're not part of that prayer. So, but we can be supportive of that prayer, and so that's really where that came from. So, so I guess no. Is it time for the?
Oh, you just got it.
For those out there,
Years.
this would be, the moose ears means like
Deer headlight.
10 minutes left. That's
10 minutes.
That's the indigenous sign for 10 minutes left.
This
So
was
that
the
was
Resi 10-minute call.
that was the double secret. The secret's out now. So I guess our ancestors try to keep it secret and sacred for 20
But
generations.
they want us to
Now it's
laugh
not.
too.
So this will be the 10 minutes. So
Yeah, that's the 10-minute sign.
anyway, yes. So anyway, thank you again for having me and allowing me to share a little love here today. So.
I appreciate you coming on, brother, and sharing your words and your inspiration and your story. And it touched me. I feel that, and I
Sure.
just wanted to say something too, going back to the prayers of your mother. That's something that my mom would always tell me. So at one point in my life, I left home early and was off drinking and doing my own just self-destruction. And during that time while I was away, she was always worried about me. And
Mm,
she would always say that it was her prayers that carried me home.
mm,
And it was, in those times that
mm,
when I would be sitting there wondering if I was even worth being alive and
mm,
worth, being here and even wanted. It was those moments that my mom, it was her prayers that,
mm,
that brought me home, and then that kept
mm,
giving me that love, because that moment where you're going through that self-destruction, where you're like,
mm,
no, my family doesn't love me, no, my mom doesn't love me, she, all these different things, but then yet there's still in the center of your heart, you still feel this love, but you can't
mm.
really explain it. And
Right,
that's
right.
that love of the mother, that's that love, that those prayers that
Yeah,
she kept, carrying for me, she, your mother carried for you.
yeah.
And I just want to say that, that mother
Mm,
connection to your babies is so important, and it's real. And you could be on the whole other side of the world, and just sitting there and closing your eyes as that mother, and even as a father with your children, it doesn't just have to be with your mother, and it can also be with others, but specifically I'm talking on the mother right this moment, is
yeah.
that you can send that love to that child, you can embrace them in that love, you can see your child if they're going through hard times, you can see your child as,
Mm,
that warrior,
mm,
that spirit that that your baby to be, and you keep holding them at that place of,
mm,
this is where they can be, this is who they really are, and not holding on to what they are at
mm,
that moment.
mm,
Because if you hold on to them, in what they are in that moment, then you're
mm,
going to keep your own children from getting out of that dark place and having that
mm,
hope. Because
mm,
if your parents don't, if you as a person, you don't see your
mm.
parents having that hope for you, then you lose even more hope for yourself. So
Sure.
if
Right.
if you have that, even if your children are out there, or doing something, if you can sit there and you can send them that love, you can,
Mm,
see them in that light and hold that space for them, they will come home. And
mm,
you're a
mm.
testament of
Yeah.
that with your mother. Your
Mm,
mother's prayers brought you, back to her
mhm,
arms. My
mhm,
mom's prayers, brought me home and brought me out of that alcohol
mm,
and drugs I was doing, and put me, brought me back into the red road and my
mm,
spiritual journey and path.
mm.
And so I just wanted to leave with that, is you know, we can all, just with anybody, it's just that having that, again, that love in your heart,
Mm,
and, you know, holding that space for someone. And, you know, whoever may be going through hard times, you know, just holding that love and that space for them and that
mm,
hope, because
mm.
you could be that one person that energetically they're feeling that something's holding them here. And if
Right,
someone's praying for them, then that keeps them
right.
there. So I just want to leave with that. And if you have anything else that you would like to say before we close up.
No, just everybody out there. Noah said that they love you today. I love you very much, and just let's we can't do this. We can't do this alone. Let's do this thing together, kind of thing. And again, it's more to do with connection of the spirit, and then it does the color of our skin.
Hmm.
So hey, hey, just come, you know, let's just come together and just pray and just know that everything's going to be okay. That's really at the end of the day. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be okay. Whichever way it goes, it's going to be okay. And the power to courage. Courage. You remember, walk with that courage and that love and so yeah, I think that's it. So again, thank you.
Thank you, brother. And thank you, everyone who tuned in, and stay tuned and check out his book, Daily Medicine. You can get it on Amazon. It's a beautiful book that has all these prayers, meditations in it for every day that he did. I can put a link in the comments for that too. So
Okay,
thank
great.
you again, everyone.
Okay.
And stay tuned for next week on Sunday. I have a professor, doctor coming in that will be speaking and shedding some more education and light on Indigenous uh, country. So thank
Mhm.
you, everyone, and we'll see you later. Have a good day.
Okay. Thank you.